go down here.
Yep, and then hit your mic lock on, and then lock it. Now you're good to go. Hit your mics are good. You guys are on already.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Talk with the People. Tonight, we're going to talk about step 5, where we admitted to God, to ourselves, and another human being the exact nature of our wrongs. This may be one of the most challenging steps we face in the recovery process, but it can be also one of the most fulfilling in the terms of removing us from our isolation. In order to accomplish step 5, the 3-part sharing it endorses must take place. That is what we discovered about ourselves in step 4. Inventory is to be freely admitted to God, to ourselves, and another human being. There are basically 4 types of wrongs we should share. First, we need to acknowledge first all of our addictions. Then we need to acknowledge what went wrong in our families of origin to initiate our codependent love hungers or our lust for drugs, alcohol. Third, we must acknowledge the wrongs that have occurred in all our major relationships in our lives. And 4, we need to acknowledge the specific ways in which we have wronged others by the practice of our addictions. Because these areas are so sensitive and so very personal, it is important to exercise care in choosing the person or persons with whom we formally share our 5th step. Such individuals should be trustworthy and somewhat detached from the situation about what we are going to share. For example, we would not usually call on a spouse or immediate family member to hear our confession. In fact, it is quite common to choose a therapist, a pastoral counselor, a pastor, an imam. Also, an individual should be compassionate, not condemning. For very personal things happen in step 5, sharing. Our shame is reduced through confession. We know that confession is an ancient tradition in Christianity that is indispensable. Step 5, sharing allows us to express our grief, to expel the resentments, the anger, and the fears that eat away at us and keep us from living life to the fullest. We must take a major step towards honesty. Perhaps the single greatest barrier to recovery is the inability to be honest. In step 5, sharing may be the first time in our lives we open our deepest, darkest secrets and most private hurts to another human. Addiction, by their very nature, isolates us from other people and from God. Step 5 sharing breaks down these barriers we have erected through our addictions. Step 5 sharing is the beginning of the end of our isolations. I'd like to open this show up with that. That was a reading out of the Serenity book. Diallo, you have any opening statements?
Step 5 is that's another powerful step. I know it did me good to sit across the table from somebody who already done the work, and even before I started sharing my 5th step, as my sponsor told me how it was and what it was like for him and what it's like now, it kind of eased the tension that I was feeling about reading my 4th step to it.
Opening statements from you, Earl.
Yeah, Brian, 5th step was asking me to do just the opposite what I've done most of my conscious life. It was asking me to share with someone my deepest, darkest secret. I think a basic part of our human nature, at times, especially as in our addicted self, is to hide from the world and ourselves what is really going on. What the 5th step asked me to do was to share with you the things that I was not willing or ready to share with anyone for fear that I might be looked at maybe in a negative light. So when you share a fifth step, and I have done a fifth step, and I've also heard fifth steps from other people. And when I have done that, I've had to approach it as if I was a counselor or a priest in a very non-judgmental manner, because I was not going to impose my values on you, the one that was sharing. I had to openly and honestly listen and allow you to vent those things in a healthy, safe environment.
Thanks, Earl. I don't know. I started off a little shaky. I had a little distractions, but let's recap. We started off with step one, and we admitted that we were powerless over our addiction, that our lives had become unmanageable. Then in another show we came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. We had to admit we were insane, but anyway. Third step we went through, we made a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understood him. Then we did the fourth step last week, and we made a searching and fearless moral inventory of ourselves. And now with that inventory and a look at ourselves, we admitted to God in the fifth step. We admitted to God, to ourselves, and another human being the exact nature of our wrongs. This was, a very powerful thing that, in the beginning, doing the fourth step, it was hard for me to see myself and show myself so many things that I had tried to run from, ignore, or that the whole purpose of getting high that I didn't have to face. And when you're new to recovery and somebody, there's somebody here that's going to either have a family member who is trying to get in recovery or someone who started the recovery path and back off, fearing this step. And this step is nothing to be afraid of, the fourth or the fifth. The fourth step about taking an inventory and writing down, different categories of things in your life that maybe you wouldn't want everybody to see or hear or whatever, but the person that I didn't want to see or hear the most was me. I didn't want to relive anything. That's why I got high, so I didn't have to think about it, that I could act like it never happened, but it did happen, and it has affected my life. If I would have maybe faced some things, earlier or whatever, and, and admitted my helplessness over some things, I would not have let my life become unmanageable and let drugs and alcohol, take over my life, or codependency or, so many different things, and then built up, a whole boneyard or a closet full of things to feel guilty or shame about. This step is, after you do it, you realize you wasted a lot of energy being scared of it. It's nothing to be afraid of. These things happen. You can defeat them if you bring them to light. What's done in the dark will soon come to the light. Well, as long as you keep it in darkness and you don't bring it to the light and defeat it, you're always in peril. You're always, just one step from or half a step from, relapsing or using or destroying your life or the lives of everyone around you, because you're protecting, your hurts and your fears from shame and guilt. Anybody that believes in, the devil, that's what the devil uses against people is, guilt and shame. So the enemy of your sobriety, your serenity, and your sanity, that's what he uses against you. While you're stuffing and holding all this stuff in, your enemy is getting stronger by your guilt and your shame. He's feeding into it, and every time you start to raise up, he'll kick you down with it if you allow it, by not, first doing your fourth step and then, admitting the exact nature of your wrongs, to yourself, to God and another human being. It's kind of refreshing. I just, implore anyone to take, take time and do it right and do it to its fullest. Mr. Earl, you got anything else for us?
Yeah, Brian, that previous step, that fourth step, was pretty intimidating for me. But it's the thing that I did in kind of isolation, because it was just me, my God, my pen, and my paper. Okay, and that was one thing, and it did take some honesty and courage on my part to make that searching and fearless moral inventory of myself. Then now it comes to step 5, where we admit it to God and to ourselves and another human being the exact nature of our wrong. Well, now what I did in isolation, pen and paper, me and my God, I was asked to share that with another living human being. I consulted my sponsor on this, and he says that this is the integrity piece. And what the integrity of being honest with you about the things that I have been honest with myself about in step 4 is liberating. I think in a lot of treatment centers, some people are not allowed to move on to the next phase and get ready to get out without having gone through this 5th step. Having sit down and have the priest or nun or counselor hear you share the exact nature of your wrongs. It was just the opposite of who I was as a person, because I wasn't trying to share with you and nobody else. I always had some cover up, some mask that I was wearing for everybody. I don't know how many masks I had, but someone shared with me that in this step, the mask must go.
In looking on doing the 5th step, I wasn't too honest in the 4th step, and I began doing the 4th step. Do you remember the first time that you did the 5th step? I wasn't that honest with myself. So here I am with a pen and paper doing the 4th step, and I was still taking it kind of light. It was watered down. I didn't want to call, a spade or whatever. I wanted to give it nice names, and, I didn't get down and dirty with it. But I found myself, as I got more freedom, inside me from, my past and the guilt and the shame, it started coming out. And, I got down and dirty with it, and the more liberated I was, the better I felt. There's always those dark things that happen in someone's life that they really need to be free from. We didn't fall into addictions by accident. We worked at it. I didn't just Shazam, abracadabra, I'm addicted to this, or, I drink too much of that, and, I harm my family when I was doing this, I was under the influence of this or that. It was more, I had to go through, preschool and kindergarten and, elementary school and, high school and college, and I had to get my master's degree in street madness and, taking on the devil's substances and, I'm kind of making slight, light of the situation. But for me, self-destruction, because of things that happened to me in my past, in my childhood, I had to, come to grips with. And once I came to grips with it, it had no power over me, and I don't care who I tell. I can't, ain't no sense me running from it. It's not that big anymore. It's small. It's like, I don't care, you can't use it against me. Once it's out there, you can tell me, run to somebody. Do you know he used to do this, or he did this one time? And you can tell anything you want to. I can beat you telling it. Anyway, that's just how I went through the fifth step the first time, and I left a few things out, but it comes to you, and some things I could say in the meeting, some things I couldn't, I certainly wasn't standing up in church saying them, but there's a time and a place for everything. You got anything, Dio?
Well, the fifth step, like I said, it came a time in my life that I had to stop trying to save face and save my butt. I can remember early on in recovery when I did
In the mic.
early on in recovery, I did like you said, I did a really light fourth step, and as it went on, I do a better fourth step and a better fourth step until I really just got butt naked honest with myself and did a real fourth step, which enabled me to do a real fifth step, which enabled me to pick the lock of the bars of the prison that I've been imprisoned in my mind all of my life. That what you said is the key. It was, who wants to look at all the horrors that they've stuffed away, that they've packed away, that they've told themselves that really didn't happen, or I didn't do that, it wasn't my fault. And you've got to dig all those things up. You have to look at them, and then I have to say them out loud to another person. What I didn't know, that doing this would save my life. I didn't understand that. I was always scared of the boogeyman. Nobody told me if I confronted the boogeyman that all the fear that I had would go away. I would feel liberated. I would feel, at the same time that I feel I'm being weak, God blessed me with strength to do what I had to do to save my own life. And I didn't understand that at the time. I really didn't. I can just remember early on in recovery, dreading the fourth step, not wanting to do a fifth step, telling myself I got all these things that I'm gonna take to the grave with me, ain't nobody business, and I can recover without giving up all of my secrets. But once again, I would go so far and I would fail. I would go so far and I would fail. As Brian was talking earlier, it always start the previous step helps you, and the previous step enables you to do the next step. But if I don't fully do the previous step, how can I do the preceding step? And if I haven't, see, Brian told you about step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4, step 5. Behind each one of those steps is a principle. Behind step 1 is honesty. Honesty is not about getting honest with you, with another person. Honesty is about getting honest with myself. If I can't get honest with myself, I'm lost. Because if I can't get honest, how, in step 2, can I get some hope? How can I get some hope that I can, with help from God, a loving sponsor in the fellowship, beat this addiction? And if I don't have any hope, how can I get faith that a God of my understanding is going to restore me to sanity? And if I don't get any faith, how can I get courage in step 4? If I have no courage, how can I go into step 5 and gain some integrity? And it's very important that those previous steps are worked to the fullest. Now, 2 through 5 can't be worked 100%, but step 1 is the only step out of the whole 12 steps that has to be worked 100%. I can't ever lie to myself.
Hey, man, That was a big chunk of truth.
Yeah. Thanks, Dial. Literature says we may feel a spirit when we share our fifth step. It may be part of what changes our lives. Heightened awareness, sensitivity, interest, and a sense of miraculous may pervade us when the pain that is stuck deep inside is set free. While our fifth step is a spiritual and emotional reality, it has the effect of demolishing the walls we have erected to protect our fear and terror from observation by others. Once again, to me, that speaks to that mask I wore. And I wasn't, underneath that mask was the truth. And I was not trying to share the truth. I was willing to take it to the grave with me, those things that I was holding secret. But the program has taught me my freedom is in letting those things go. There's nothing that you can hold over my head today because I've put it all out there. You can't go back and say, Earl Brown smoked weed, Earl Brown did that, because I done already told the whole story.
Got that right.
Matter of fact, I tell my story in meetings every time I go. Every time that there might be a speaker meeting and I'm asked to speak, I'm going to tell and I'm going to share the madness. I'm going to take the mask off. Dial.
As you're sitting there saying that, Earl, I can remember back in my using days, I hated to be called a crackhead. But today, I call myself a crackhead. I can laugh at it because I'm a recovering crackhead. That's what I am. There's no getting around it. I can't hide those truths, you know, and it's crazy how when we don't hide those truths, not only cannot my disease use it against me, no one can use it against me.
The truth will set you free.
Man, it's powerful. That's powerful.
Isn't it?
Yes.
So there's nothing anyone can hold over me today, because what it was I didn't want you to know who I really was. The truth today is, yes, that was me at that time, but that's not me today. The truth today, I share, as well as I share the truth of who I was then. But it began with me dredging up all those things, all those secrets, and taking off the mask. I went to a meeting one time and I heard a brother speak, and he said he's going to take the mask off, and he took off his hat and he was bald. He said, I'm going to keep taking the mask off, and he took off his upper plate. I'm honest now. This is me.
Like, I'm going to get you, sucker.
Oh, man.
Bearing it all.
Oh.
Set yourself free.
Excuse me.
I mean, but the inventory in the fourth step, you know, I'm reading out of a publication. Our inventory does not automatically deliver us from the bondage of addiction. There's a long way to go, but certainly begins the process and gives us continued hope for the future. We gain acceptance in our nature with hope for positive change. We are often surprised, excuse me, to find out exactly what we wrote when we share our fifth step. We often feel a great sense of freedom after doing our fifth step. We may still find fault with ourselves and despair that we'll ever really recover. Addiction surrounds our entire lives with walls of fear that have kept us prisoners much of our lives. Working the fifth step exposes all our negative feelings and begins the demolition of these walls once and for all, when we finally be free to begin building a whole new life based on a solid foundation of truth, honesty, and trust. The 12th step has helped us to find trust in God, ourselves, and another human being, often for the first time in our lives. We cannot do this alone. Remember, this is a we program, and together we find courage, hope, and faith to share our inventory. We have to be vulnerable. It's a chance that we must take. We learn that perfection is unrealistic, a fear-based idea. We don't have to be perfect. Through writing and sharing, we find forgiveness and acceptance. The fifth step can be upsetting for some of us. The bondage of our addiction has had a physical hold on us. This step will be positive affirmation of our new feelings of trust in our higher power and another human being. I'm trying to think, when I couldn't be real and I had to be fake to even my closest friends who've seen me do most of the things I've done, but it's like we had a pack, that we ignore what we did, and only talked about the good things, so it was like we had a lie, going on to ourselves, but when you can trust somebody enough to talk about it, and when you can trust in God, that He can, relieve you from this. I mean, it was a whole new ball game. It's so much different. Earl, to be able to, to sit down with you, at a table and tell you everything, all my faults, everything that went wrong, what I did, what happened to me, how, what resentments I carried against somebody, because they done this and they done that. I'm so glad, I've met some people who were in bad shape, and it's like, this is not truly how I feel, but I used to say, I sure wish they become an addict so they could rebuild themselves, because they tore from the floor up, all the symptoms and all the things, associated with addiction they were going through, but they just, you couldn't deem them to be alcoholic or you couldn't deem them to be an addict. But, a lot of people need to rebuild their lives and admit some of these things, and take a moral, inventory of themselves, and try to become better people and rid themselves of that guilt and shame and the things of the past. I know the liquor industry don't want that to happen, and they don't want us to stop becoming drunks. The marijuana business don't want us, to stop trying to mask our feelings, high, on marijuana or whatever. It's hard for me to say marijuana, weed. I'm smoking weed. I don't know if I ever smoked marijuana. I don't know if I ever smoked marijuana, but I sure smoke weed. But you know what I'm saying. Just rebuilding our lives and going out here and living the way we should. Not because of it's legal, or I'm not even talking about morals, but I'm talking about healthy living. Having our minds headed in the right direction. I want to have a healthy way of thinking.
Yeah, but it's crazy. I was thinking about this just the other day because I thank crack cocaine for coming into my life, because I found out I was messed up before drugs came along. And if I didn't ever started using crack cocaine, and what if I went through my life just smoking weed and marijuana? How much of a horrible person would I be today? I'd still be self-centered, selfish, grandiose. I'd still be a liar, cheating, a thief, and I still think everybody owed me something. I wouldn't be helping nobody. I wouldn't have an honest love for a God of my understanding and know that everything that I have is attributed to His grace and mercy. I wouldn't know that. I'd also, because I sit back and I see normal people, quote unquote normal people that are, man, they got problems. The problems might not be addiction. They might be addicted to drugs and or alcohol, but they still have a living disorder. I suffer from a living disorder. And drugs made me look at me. It became so bad, I hid so long behind drugs and alcohol that I got sick of me. So I had to look at me. I had to do some work on me. I had to get a relationship with a God of my understanding, which from that relationship, He led me to a relationship with myself. And with that relationship with myself, I was led to another relationship with other people, which is so crazy that because That's what the steps do. They break down relationships in 3 different parts: a relationship with God, a relationship with myself, and a relationship with others. But what's so crazy about that is I never knew I had a problem with none of them. I never knew I didn't have a relationship with God. I thought I loved me to the fullest, and I had plenty of friends. But I realized, no, I didn't have friends. I had, what's the word I'm looking for here? People to use, because I didn't really know how to be a friend. I only called on God when the police got behind me, or I didn't have any dope. I was trying to figure something out.
See, all you knew was victims.
Victims, exactly. That's all I had was victims in my life, and then there was me, and I don't even really know what I was to myself. I just know I was killing myself. So I didn't have no relationship with myself. I didn't have any love for myself. And I see so many people. I'm sitting here right now, and I'm really kind of going through something because I have somebody in my life who used to be my significant other, and they're going through something, and it's killing me because they will not look at them. And the more I sit here and talk about this, I'm picturing that person in my head still trying to save face.
I mean, well, that's one thing about when we're using, we get grandiose. If we were grandiose before, when we get to the height of our addiction,
That pinnacle?
the pinnacle, we hit the highest level of our addiction, that's when the grandiosity, it's like, what? You really, then you really see yourself, I'm really tore up, because it's like, I had $20 in a razor blade, and I thought I was getting ready to be Tony Montana.
Man, what you think
I was the baddest person in the whole world. I'm a cocaine kingpin with $20 in a razor blade. And those, there's so many lies that somebody, you buy, $100 worth of marijuana again, $100 worth of weed, and you think you Pablo Escobar, and you're just this, you're a down and out person trying to, make a buck off of someone else's misery, and you start realizing these
parasite.
things. Parasite. I don't need to do those things anymore. And it's not because I want to look like anything to anybody else. It's the man in the mirror. When I look in the mirror, I feel good about myself. Go ahead, Yaya.
No, I just want to just cut it for a second. It feels good to lay down at night knowing I have hurt no one. It's a beautiful feeling. I can remember days where I hurt somebody before 6 o'clock in the morning. I was like the Army. I hurt more people before 9 o'clock in the morning than most people do all day. But yeah.
But to anyone that's watching this, we laugh and we have a good time. I can have twice as much fun sober than most people can have, under the influence. It's like, I go inside of a bar and I watch people and it's like, wow, that was me, and it's like, it doesn't make any sense to me, I have nothing to give the liquor industry, nothing, it just, they're irrelevant to me and whatever, but but all the other I took so many chances and so many risks, that risk-taking behavior,
Come on,
but it started way before drugs. It started way before alcohol, because it's like back in the days of Mary Poppins, when you get on the roof and jump off the roof with an umbrella expecting to fly, it's like, yeah, there's a drug waiting just for you one of these days in your future.
Diving into a rose bush because you think you're Superman.
But saying all that to say this, there are so many behaviors that we've exhibited in our lives, and we can laugh at some of the things that we've done. There's some others that we cry because we did them. But we're honest with them today. Today, it's honesty. All the things that I done to somebody. Now let's we're 34 minutes deep into this show. Now, let's talk about, some of the hurt that we put on other people. I've done things that, I'm not proud of. I can remember taking my mother to a meeting and her watching me to get my 4-year, chip of being, and in that meeting when I was, giving my little, speech, giving honor and all this other stuff that I was running off at the mouth about, while I was doing it, then I thought about, the times that, my mom defended me and I was dirty as I don't know what, and she still found the good in me. How I lied to her, and connived and borrowed and everything else. Now I wasn't no stealer from my mama now, because one of the things that helped me to get sober after being arrested and convicted, yes, my mother gave me her bank card, and it had a what do you call it when you have a mortgage, a homeowner's loan, anyway. So it's like, some ridiculous number like $12,000, and then she had a regular savings account, checking account, and this other account that had 12. It's like, let's see, I can take this and run it through, and I could take out a couple G's. I could flip it a couple times, put it back in there, those stuff. And it's like, that crushed me, that I had the thought. But it helped me, because I didn't want to hurt anyone else. And, it was already bad enough that my kids, had Christmas on January 3rd, when the next welfare check came out, because I had sold the Christmas presents, and shipped them. I shipped the kids over to my mother and kept them over there until after the 3rd when I could rebuy Christmas presents. All the lies, all the deceit that I put into relationships, not being honest with significant others is a terrible thing, and, I used people, all kinds of things. I took advantage of people, I watched somebody, somebody gave me the eye, stole something from somebody, that I cared about. But because the drug was more important, I act like that person didn't take it rather, and met the other person around the corner and we split it up. Those kind of things of turning into a snake, something that was not normally my nature. For me to do those things, and then trying to admit them, I cheated on, her with her. I stole her food stamps and sold them and said I didn't know anything about it. While you're writing these things down, Earl, I lied to employers. And the things I did in high school were just ridiculous, And my being a total dopehead, I want to give a shout out to my 7th grade principal who probably was watching this. Yeah, I lied to you too. In 7th grade, that's how I learned how to be a good liar, was lying to people that cared about me. How you lie to your parents and you think that they're stupid because they believed your lie. But the thing is, you're so dumb they didn't even believe it, but they just gave you enough rope to hang yourself. But it's a lot of things. A lot of hurt. We do a lot of damage, a lot of wreckage. A lot of things of not coming home, not being there, when you should have been with your kids. There's a lot of hurt that goes on that you need to get rid of. If you don't forgive yourself, you'll never make it. And if you don't, if you don't trust God enough, if you don't, trust yourself to, get it all out, and then tell it to another human being, you're going to stay sick, and it's sickness, we think of addiction as using of the drug. Addiction is destroying everyone's life. Anyone that touches you, anything around you, you destroy. Anyway.
They say you use drugs until drugs start using you. Brian, when I think about the one of the central things in a 4th step and trying to share a 5th step, I have to go back to a song I used to listen to in high school. I'm in with the in crowd. I know what the in crowd know, and I go where the in crowd go. But that wasn't me. But I wanted to be there. I didn't feel self-confident and self-assured enough to be okay with me, who I am, and I always wanted to be something different. There we go with the people pleasing. And so I would try to please people to be a part of your crowd. I had no particular group. I was that chameleon who would change colors and stripes to be a part of whoever I was with, paupers, princes, pimps, priests. You know, I would take on all these different faces, trying to be what you thought might have been cool. And then one day I got to thinking, I heard that song, and it was on the radio, and it was an oldie but goodie. The song came on many years after high school. I'm in with the in crowd. Well, at this time, I was hanging out in a den with a den of thieves. And I was a thief too, because you had to be a thief to be in the den with the other thieves. Because if you wasn't a part of the game, then you was a victim of the game. So, but then I remembered, I said, all these years, it finally dawned on me. I wanted to be in with the in crowd, and when I realized that this crowd that I was in with was really an out crowd.
Yeah.
You know, we're so isolated. I know what the in crowd know. I go where the in crowd go. Well, there was very few of us in this small den of thieves, and I had become so isolated that it wasn't fun no more. And I had to learn later on in recovery, after I share what some of my motivations were. And my motivations were, I wanted to be liked, I wanted to be accepted. And in doing that, I gave up myself and became a people pleaser. And even now, I sometimes hear that song, that old refrain from the roaring days of yesteryear. But they weren't good days when I look at it today. It was all tragedy. And no longer am I concerned about being in with the in crowd. I'm in with a group now, my brothers and sisters in recovery, a group of enlightened individuals that accept me for who I am, with all my flaws. They really know who Earl is, because, like I said before, I done told my story. So they know about the wrong. I've done my 5th step. I had to do a 4th step, and then I had to share it. And I share my story openly, willing, and freely. Today, my experience, my strength, and my hope, I freely share. So there are no secret today. And because of that, I've become part of a group and a fellowship that is so enormous. It's even more enormous than I ever thought I could ever be a part of a group this big.
Oh, so you done took off your hat and pulled your teeth out and set them on the table.
Took off his mask.
Took off the mask,
Pulled
out that marble eye,
You know, Earl,
and my prosthetic leg.
But did you tell him, I'm going to keep an eye out on you for you?
Hey, I said, yeah, I'm watching you. Got my eye on
I'm
you.
watching you. You know, it's amazing. You know, after being in recovery for a couple of 24s, I can remember when I first came in, and you know, for the first couple of years, you know, I would reminisce about how much fun I had using, and it took a good sponsor to help me see that. How was that fun? How did I have fun spending all day, for one, first trying to kill myself, beating, manipulating, and hurting not only the ones I love, but anybody I came in contact with, being deceitful, wretched. We're not gonna fail to mention that I walked around smelling like a 2-week-old can of sauerkraut. But you couldn't tell me I was yes, I was. I look good. So I thought. That was fun. You know, today I can say my worst day of sobriety beats whatever I want to call my best day getting high. Because today I don't have to run. I don't have to evade. I don't have to avoid. When I have a problem, I deal with it. And some people say, how could that be fun? Because it's fun because my literature told me it would come a time in my life where I would intuitively know how to handle and deal with situations that used to baffle me.
Man.
And today that has come true. I've spent a couple of 24s in it that turned into months, a couple of 24s that have turned into years. As when I first started, recovery was, they tell you, work the program. Okay. Today I live the program. The program, recovery, is a way of life for me. It's my lifestyle. It's a lifestyle I've chosen. It's no longer work. It comes so easy that sometimes it scares me when I tell on myself, as black people, we don't tell on nothing. Yeah, I'm not telling nothing. And I go to my spouse, man, I got to tell you this. And I'm like, wow, I used to keep that stuff. That wasn't nobody's business but my own. I was told secrets keep me sick. And right now, I'm afraid of getting sick. And it's not sick on drugs. It's how if I let myself seep back into that old behavior, then I can't allow that. I have to keep on pushing forward. Like we said, I got to keep it pushing. My mission statement is, I want to wake up today and be a better person than I was yesterday. And that's where I live my life, to the best of my ability.
No, and no one's perfect.
Yes.
But go ahead, Earl.
In step 4, we were writing down our flaws. Step 5, we're sharing with another human being the exact nature of our wrong. And we have to come in touch with, that's the mask being taken off, all the wrongs and defects in our character. I don't want to do the next step in advance, but these flaws in our personality, one, they weren't a secret to nobody.
Not really. Not,
Everybody knew we was toe up from the flow up. We just thought they didn't know.
How could you tell?
No.
What-
I can remember driving down the street and I watched, people try to turn invisible. Like I'm holding my breath and I'm closing my eyes and you can't see me.
That sounds delusional.
That is called the roach technique. I'll teach you that one.
I mean, but earlier you talked about isolation, and isolation, is it's like I wanted to isolate, but I didn't want to be totally alone. I needed somebody to share my misery, but I didn't want, and I kind of want to be a part of something, bigger. I mean, sharing a little bit of how I got where I was, because I was shorter than everybody else, early in life, and I was overweight. I felt a lot of, shame and guilt before I even done anything, and I felt bad, and so drugs gave me a freedom, that's the whole deceit, that the Satan-based drug or alcohol or whatever gives you is that I can relieve you from your pain. I'm the one who really loves you. Pick me up, use me, you'll feel better. And what that temporary euphoria wound up doing was giving me a long life of misery. And I hung around in some very seedy places. I can remember being, what do you call it, dressed to the nines. Sharp as I don't know what, with a very beautiful young lady. And where were we at? We were down at the Bootleggers, and they had a little window and buying half pints and You know, it looked like it was a shoe shine parlor, but there was a little window that, you know, at 4 o'clock in the morning, you know, I got this lovely young lady on a date, and I'm taking her to places, seedy places. You know, it's like I got high in the daytime with doctors and sold doctors drugs, and you know what I'm saying. That night, you know, I'm with thieves, robbers, you know, gangbangers or whatever in the alleys of Logan Fondell. You know, same day. You know, so you could go from one extreme to the other, you know, in the same day, and find, you know, and I thought, you know, I was doing something big, or I was, you know, basically what I'm trying to say is it was my search for acceptance and significance. I wanted to be a significant player somewhere. And if it was selling and using drugs, I felt like I was a part of something that was better. And now being part of the fellowship, you know, and being in recovery, you know, I know I'm a part of the right thing, you know, but I know that I count on this fellowship. It's not that I'm, you know, a major player in it, or you know, somehow it's me or whatever. I lost me. I lost you know, that me, myself, and I, that's all dead. You know, I've lost all that. It's we. Look what we can do. You know, we can help other people. You know, I reach out to other people. You know I can't help everybody, you know, but there are some that can. That's the whole purpose of this program. DIO, you worked all day. I mean, I know you'd rather be asleep. You know, in fact, you told me that when I woke you up. You know, you wanted some rest. You needed some rest, but you got up and you came here to do this program, and you tell what you've been through. Earl, you know, you've been dealing with people all day, and here you are. You know, it's not about us. It's about we, and it's about trying to bring in more people into the we fold. You know, not so they, you know, we can do damage or, you know, whatever, but just to help somebody, you know, like the organization and the hoodies say, you know, Black Lives Matter, but it's all lives matter, and it's more important, your life matters. Anyone who listens to this program, we're going to laugh, we're going to have a good time, but we're also coming from some materials, you know, of recovery, and we're also about our experience, strength, and hope, you know, that you can do it, you know, and you don't have to be high. You don't have to use drugs. You don't have to abuse yourself, you know, because use turns into abuse. You know, that's why we're here. You know, I can talk to people all day, but this is an opportunity and a platform that we can, you know, that we can share. And there will be a time soon when we will be live, and you will be able to call in, and you know, that's what we're going to work on, you know, soon. The ability for you to ask questions. You know, the web page and Facebook page and all those pages are coming along, and you'll be able to send questions. We're going through the steps first, and after we go through the 12 steps, then we're going to go to topics, and we're going to go to topics that you may want to talk about. You know, far as in recovery and things about substance abuse, but also about, you know, different kinds of abuse, domestic violence, you know, self-abuse, you know, some other subjects that, and some other concerns that we have. Because the whole thing is about getting our community right, you know, one person at a time. I mean, that's all we can do, you know, and we share our experiences. Earl, you got anything else you want to say? We got about 7 minutes, fellas.
Yeah, Brian, this fourth and this fifth step, that opens up a new look at ourselves, a new awareness. What reminds me of a story about the werewolf. Now, the werewolf, he ultimately knew when he went through the change. The werewolf, to me, is an addict story. And the werewolf, he told his friend, said, look, lock me up, chain me up, because when the moon comes up, when it gets a craving, when that full moon comes, all kinds of bad things are going to happen. So he did that, but he entreated and he talked to the person and he said, keep me locked up in chains because I don't want to do what I do when I become the monster. Well, they let him out, and what did he do? Just did all the wrong that he could do. But he had become aware, and he tried to put that part of himself and change and behind him. I remember when the monkey on my back got to be so large it became a gorilla. And then the program kind of put that gorilla and that monkey in the cage, but even every now and then, that gorilla will rattle my cage. Well, I have to stay with the program.
Yeah.
I have to stay with the program because I ain't well yet, and I have to keep working this thing every day. I have to stay aware. I have to stay vigilant. If I don't stay vigilant over my past and my disease, it will come back to haunt me again. I'll be just like that werewolf. I'll be left out the cage, and I'll be back again wreaking havoc throughout the world.
Earl, I got a correction. You put me, you, and Dio together. It ain't about something in the cage. We got a whole zoo. We can carry the zoo with us
Ain't you
everywhere
right?
we go.
That's like, I was at a meeting one day, and I heard a guy told me, he said, the guy was sharing, and he was saying how he knew right now that his addiction was outside in the parking lot, lifting up cars and pulling up buildings. It was getting a good workout on. And then when I shared, I was like, man, I wish your addiction to talk to mine and give me that much space. Because that monkey stayed on my back. It didn't go far. It stays right. Matter of fact, today, as much as I'm educating myself on my disease is still educating itself on me, and it's trying to find a crack. It's trying to find a window of opportunity. It's trying to come through the back. Matter of fact, okay, I can't do the back door. I used to get in with the back door all the time. I can't get with the back door. I can't come to the front. I can't come from the side. I'm going to have to do like Gump when the rain was coming up. But I know that, like Earl says, if I don't stay vigilant, if I don't live this way of life, I can no longer work recovery. I have to live a recovered life, because if I do not, my addiction is waiting. And what's so crazy is that I know that if I started using again today, I'm going to pick up exactly where I left off, and I will be worse in a shorter time than it ever took me to get the way I was in the first place.
Say it'd be worse first.
Worse first, that's right.
I'd like to give another shout out to Oklahoma City. We got a viewer from Oklahoma City. Also like to give a shout out to Portland, Oregon. We have a viewer from Portland, Oregon. We're pretty soon we'll be worldwide.
That's
We'll
what
go
I'm
from
talking about.
international to
All right,
worldwide.
Shout out, Portland. OKC.
But we need to continue. It's like I said a couple of shows ago. My mother asked me, how many more of those meetings you're going to have to go to? And it's like, I don't have to go to any, but if I want to stay sober, I'm going to go to some. But that's not even why I go. I go because I like it. I like it. There's some people there I like to see. I like seeing the progress of other people. I celebrate other people's successes.
Only in the rooms of recovery. See, that's one thing about being around recovered addicts, is that we all understand each other. We might not have normally mixed on the streets, but when it comes to recovering, we mix because we know pain. We can share the pain of addiction, and we understand what it takes to overcome an addiction. We understand the language of the heart. When someone shares and you can feel their share, we understand. And I said that to say it reminds me of a joke that I heard. I'm going to tell one more and I'm done. This English guy celebrating 17 years of recovery. So he wants to share this with his mother. So he catches a flight to England, goes to his mom's house, and he sees his mother, and he tells his mother's like, why are you here? He says, well, I celebrate 17 years today. And she looks at him and goes, huh? The cat's got that.
Well, hey, it's been a great show. We just did the 5th step, and we're going to go through the rest of the steps. And like I said, we're going to change the program up. It's time for us to shut off. That the czar, William King, is running us off the air. So once again, shout out to Iowa City. Shout out to OKC. Shout out to Portland, Oregon. I love everybody. Yeah, and Earl, you got anything you want to say very quickly?
Very quickly.
Very quickly.
Back to the literature. Our inventory does not automatically deliver us from the bondage of addiction. There was and is a long way to go, but certainly beginning the process gives us hope.
Well, it's time to get off. We the people from Talk to the People. It's time for us to go. See you next week.
See ya.
Your girl Laverne, your girl Precious,
and Chrome.
Tune in every Thursday, 8 p.m. to 9 p.m. to MediaKingBoss.com for our live show, The Talk of the O&E.
We gonna be talking. Life issues.
Community issues. All issues. Again, make sure you tune in, MediaKingBoss.com on 1690 AM to 1. We out.